Today on the show, he's part man, part dog, and all cop in the return of Puchinsky. A buoy and a satellite find love in art house heartbeeps, and things fall out of love with Jack Quaid and a robot in non-art house heartbeeps, plus the war film Valiant One featuring, hey, didn't I see him last week in Marked Men? Then Craig T. Nelson makes a bet with the bank in Coach Buys a Farm, and finally the multi-Oscar nominated film Everybody Hates Emilia Perez. Let's start the show.
My friends don't hate you.
Cat does.
Yeah, maybe, but Cat hates everybody. Remember to smile and act happy.
Companion is produced by Zach Kreger of Barbarian and is a very entertaining and funny film where Jack Quaid is in a relationship with a companion bot who he takes on a weekend getaway with friends that gets much darker with more secrets revealed as the film unfolds. Through its violence and humor, it tells a story of this emotionally manipulative relationship that dives into control and entitlement and how loneliness can drive one insane. The leads do an excellent job at handling scenes where at first, it looks like this normal meet-cute relationship. They do the lovey-dovey stuff well, and when it gets more intense, there's good build-up to that. Sophie Thatcher is great here, and between this and Heretic, she's becoming a fantastic horror star, and Jack Quaid easily goes from seeming relatively harmless to then pretty sadistic. It's a good ride, but it's not a perfect film. Honestly, as much as I liked this, I think this is one that would work even better if you went into it cold. The way the story unfolds, it's like it's slowly dropping clues about what she really is, which if you've seen the full trailer, you know what that is. This is something they should have kept at just the teaser. If I didn't see the full trailer, it'd be fun to guess what's going on at first. Like, okay, is something up with her? Is he a killer? Is she a killer? What's with his friends? And then the reveal would have been more impactful because the movie shoots it and edits it like it's a twist. There are big things going on that aren't in the trailer though, one of which is fairly obvious early on. I do like a majority of the supporting cast, especially Lucas Gage, who's turning into one of those dudes where I love seeing him pop up and stuff. He steals a lot of the movie, honestly. On the flip side though, you have this character Sergey, played by Rupert Friend, who's just a cartoon. He acts like a Will Forte SNL character wandered into the story. It's also one of those where every predicament they run into with their plan could be pretty easily solved, but since it's a movie, they have to do some dumb villainy stuff. And between this and Flight Risk, it's the second movie in a row I've seen where the same item is left casually on the ground so someone can escape. But this is a better movie than Flight Risk, and I didn't even hate Flight Risk. This is a very, very good B. When it works, it really works. Up next, what happens when you and your dog partner get in an accident? Well, you put the dog's head on your own body, of course! Stay tuned.
Oh, that's not fair! That's not fair! Here, call this number.
Life's not fair.
What?
Life's not fair.
Okay, I can't wait until someone accidentally rents the recent Luc Besson movie by mistake. This Dog Man is based on a series of books from the author of Captain Underpants, and in both cases, I wasn't familiar with the source material going in, but that didn't stop me from enjoying Captain Underpants, and it doesn't stop me from enjoying this one either. Clearly, there is a lot of love for the material here, as the filmmakers create a very fast-paced story of Dog Man battling against his arch nemesis, Petey the cat, while both begin bonding with Petey's young clone. Every frame really does look like a children's book come to life, and you can always spot something random going on in the background, or a really quick blink and you miss it joke in the forefront, which makes it to where you could probably pick up on new jokes in repeat viewing. Now I'll say that it's almost pretty manic to a fault. I wonder how much this kind of storytelling would work better as a limited series of shorts, because as a full-length movie, it can get exhausting sometimes. Like the movie itself is a 6-year-old already hopped up on Jolt Cola, who then snorts a line of pixie sticks. There's even a character in the movie named ADHD. There'd be big laughs in it, but even then, some of those they repeat a lot, so it can get a bit repetitive. There's also one too many characters and plots, like it's condensed numerous books into one movie. So the lead suffers from that a bit. This is really more of a Petey the Cat movie. I think he has the most screen time, he has the most character dimension, and is the only one with a big arc. Dogman, meanwhile, is a supporting character in his own movie, and sometimes I'd forget he was there. But in the few moments that it does slow down, it shows itself to still have a lot of heart, including a RoboCop-like scene where Dogman goes to the home he used to live in and sees that all of his family is left. Even with its flaws, it's still a likable film with clever editing and an energy that's hard not to admire, even if it gets a little draining. It's also a B. I recall liking Captain Underpants better, but this is still a solid flick. And yes, I did get the Dog Bowl popcorn bucket. Up next, a movie that has 13 Oscar nominations, so it has to be good, right? Stay tuned.
Nunca me había pasado algo así.
¿Y qué pasó?
Ahí le paré. Ya no quise volverlo a ver.
Emilia Perez is this year's most hated Oscar nominee for Best Picture. Only in this particular case, I'm not really seeing love or hate fall on political lines, or that the public likes it but social media hates it. No, I don't know anyone who likes this, let alone wanting it to be up for Best Picture. The movie is about a lawyer who helps a cartel leader transition and then go into hiding, where then they both decide to help out the community by locating hundreds of thousands of dead bodies. Oh yeah, and it's a musical too! I could see this working as camp. Like, this is a prime plot line for a John Waters movie starring Divine back in the 70s or 80s. But think less Sicario meets the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and more like they based it on cop rock with its gritty look, and then suddenly everyone's singing in a courtroom. There's a lot you could forgive if this was played up like a midnight movie that you could have drinks and quote along with. But aside from a couple of musical numbers that are supposed to be comedic, this is played as serious as a freaking heart attack, so it's impossible to ignore just how silly a lot of it is. For a majority, I sat there emotionless. I wasn't liking it, but I wasn't hating it. I wasn't bored, but I can't say I was thoroughly entertained either. The music was too in one ear and out the other for me to have any kind of response to them, other than it's unnecessary for it to be a musical, and the lyrics are flat out dumb sometimes. It wasn't a giant slog like the last musical I saw, The End. Admittedly, maybe that movie needed a song with lyrics about sweat and Diet Coke. But when it gets to that last 20 minutes and a kidnapping plot took over, then I was like, okay, this really isn't good at all. This kidnapping plot could have easily ended if certain characters just revealed themselves way sooner, or if the evil pimp boyfriend was any sort of memorable character beforehand, until suddenly he's the big bad out of nowhere. Instead of having any kind of proper conclusion to the story, they go the devil inside route and just crash and burn and cut to the end like they ran out of paper for the script. I would say I've never seen anything like it before, but I have. Here's a movie where Emilia Perez wants to get close with her ex-wife and kids again, only they don't know who she is. And there's scenes of the two of them talking, and Emilia going, "So do you still love your husband? What was he like?" And then the new boyfriend gets in the way and Emilia wants to kill him. Shame on anyone for saying this director didn't do any research. Clearly he did. He watched the hell out of Mrs. Doubtfire. Look, it's an ambitious film. It's trying to be original. It's not a poorly made movie. Some performances work, some don't, so I can go as high as a C-, but I didn't really like it that much, and there's no reason for this to be one of the front runners for Best Picture, especially when it's competing against far better films like The Brutalist and Conclave. If this thing had one more nomination, it'd tie the record for the most nominations with Ben-Hur and Titanic. What? Coming up next, it's the war film Valiant One. I'm predicting 0 Oscar nominations in the future. Stay tuned.
Dude, I'll buy you some time! Let's go.
Valiant One is a film that stars Chase Stokes, who I just saw last week in Marked Men, but he's actually a lot better in this one, and the movie is a bit better too, but I'm not gonna lie, this did start out pretty rough. In it, a group of soldiers are in a helicopter that goes down, and they're trapped behind enemy lines in North Korea and have to make their way to safety. The first act plays like a streaming movie that somehow snuck its way into theaters, right down to opening with an action scene and cutting to 36 hours earlier and weirdly writing down the movie's tagline in the opening too. The characters begin as just types, from the smart-ass hothead to the weenie guy who any minute seems like he'll run to the shitter and get eaten by a dinosaur. There's stock lines like, "We're not in Kansas anymore," to "It's Miller time," to characters arguing and one saying, "Get a room, you two." The soundtrack is also wildly out of place and distracting. There's some not so great effects in the beginning, and the wounds on their faces just look like fake blood smeared on them, but I can tell the filmmakers are trying to work well with what they got, and because of that, they always keep it pretty fast-paced, so even when it doesn't work, it's not boring, and honestly, it did get better as it went along. It's never great, but there's a lot of standoffs that are genuinely intense, and the camera work got a lot better too. Even the characters who started out as unlikable, it's actually sad to see them go. It has some pretty shocking deaths in it. But even when it got better, it didn't feel like something you need to see in theaters. There's a lot of movies that do what this does, everything from Black Hawk Down to Behind Enemy Lines, and this one doesn't really do a lot to stand out from that. Theatrically, it's a C+, but if you watch it at home, it's serviceable as a quick 90-minute action film. Up next, will Craig T. Nelson save his farm in green and gold? Well, yeah. Stay tuned.
Go back.
Green and Gold is a faith-based film that had one of my favorite trailer turns recently. The trailer starts out like, okay, Craig T. Nelson is a farmer, his granddaughter dreams of being a musician, and he's fighting to keep his land from the bank, but then when the evil banker shows up, this happens.
I will make a little wager with you. The pack go all the way, I will give you another year interest-free.
What? Where's this going? Is Angel Christopher Lloyd gonna show up to help them? This was better than I thought it would be. The acting from our leads is excellent, and the direction from first-time director Anders Lindwall is very good. He gets some good shots out of this, and it's directed with a gritty realism that makes me want to see him take on a horror film in the future. Where the movie doesn't work is that there's a lot going on here. This is basically a movie of subplots. Sometimes it's about them watching the Packers to see if they can keep the farm. Sometimes it's about her wanting to be a singer, and also there's a romance with the farmhand, but then almost a love triangle when a celebrity country singer is interested in her music, and he's played by Brandon Sklenar. Or the last movie I saw him in was a love triangle film, only I hope this one was slightly less dramatic to make. Here, though, that's just a setup for a lot of city folk jokes, like when he sits at the table, but he's a vegetarian. Like I said, the acting is good, but Craig T. Nelson's character is a bit too much of a curmudgeon to where it renders him fairly unlikable. His goals in this are to save his farm and to crush the music dreams of his granddaughter. And he's presented as being right in this. So I'm like, what's the message here? Ambition is overrated. F your dreams. Who needs dreams when you got football? The movie almost works for me, but not quite. I like the filmmaking, but there's a little too much going on. It was a C for me, but if you're the demographic for it, I'm sure you'll be into it because the packed house I was with applauded like hell at the end. Up next, when a buoy meets a satellite, will they be the ones to bang it out and restart humanity? Stay tuned.
What is life? I don't know if you could tell, but it's date night.
Life is people with a dog eating ice cream.
It's centuries after an extinction event has killed all life on Earth, and the only thing we have left to remember humanity is the entire library of YouTube videos carefully studied by a buoy to develop a personality and get with a satellite. She has to pretend to be human because, no joke, the satellite pops up the I am not a robot spam guard before becoming friends with her. Unfortunately, they base their personality on the most vapid, obnoxious couple vloggers they could find. They should have stumbled upon my channel. We could have seen them do drink videos and review movies starring the Friends cast. Wait, the movie does have scenes where they do a taste test of water and they're obsessed with Friends. Maybe they did scan my channel. I'm very big in the buoy community. The way this is edited is like it wants to be a little WALL-E crossed with Eternal Sunshine and a dash of Tree of Life, but it isn't any of those things. The opening act feels like one of those 90s videos shown in school to explain how the internet works, or in this case, a how-to guide on social media. The rest is like being stuck at a party next to a couple of narcissists who want to show you their new video, only the video isn't short, it's 90 goddamn minutes. This is definitely the kind of couple who would send out monthly newsletters about themselves to every person in their building. This is a movie that spans billions of years, and the biggest drama we get is that the satellite feels betrayed when he finds out he's been catfished. These two argue when the Earth is about to be swallowed up by the sun, and I'm like, can the sun speed it up, please? It's exactly the kind of pretentious-ass movie you get when the lead characters are named I Am and Me. This satellite is basically the tombstone for the Earth, containing every piece of history and art on its hard drive. But it's like the only movie they saved for him was Collateral Beauty. I give it bonus points for at least trying, and the plot is certainly creative, so I'll give it a D+, but I really didn't like this movie. Thanks for watching, everyone. Be sure to subscribe today and click the notification bell, and I'll be back next week with reviews of Love Hurts and Heart Eyes. See you then.